Hello and welcome to another episode of Navigating with Lisa and the Silversea Passengers. This episode of Navigating with Lisa is going to cover all the basics of a cruise to Alaska. I have done personally an Alaska itinerary twice. I've done it in both directions, departing from Vancouver and departing from Seward. So I'm going to give you my own personal input on how the experience was for us. And I'll share some general information on transfers in Alaska, pre and post, some excursion advice, and maybe a little bit of packing advice too, because I can always use packing advice. But that's what's up for this episode of Navigating with Lisa. We're going to talk Alaska. So there's a lot of things to love about an Alaska cruise. It's a relatively easy and great way to see a fairly remote part of the world. Most of the trips are in 7-day, unless you do like a back-to-back booking, but if you just do one booking, most of the trips are 7 days. So if you're a new cruiser, it's a great way to even decide whether you like the experience of being on a cruise ship or not, while also getting to see one of the most spectacularly beautiful parts of the globe. So there's a lot to recommend about an Alaska itinerary, especially for a first-time cruiser. If you're looking to book a cruise and just not quite sure if you're going to love the experience or want to know more about what Silversea is about, an Alaska itinerary is a great first step in cruising with Silversea. One thing that a lot of first-time cruisers are nervous about, especially on a smaller Silversea ship, is the motion of the ship and will I get seasick? And one of the great things also about Alaska is that a lot of the cruising you're doing is via the Inside Passage, which is a very, very calm body of water. Now, of course, there's bad weather just like anywhere else in the world, and so that's not 100% always going to be the case. And you are in open ocean a bit from Ketchikan to Vancouver, so there is a tendency there to have a little bit more of ocean swells and waves. Overall, in both of my times doing an Alaska cruise, I found it to be some of the calmest waters we've ever cruised in. So for a classic cruise on Silversea and many other cruise lines, you have essentially kind of the same ports of calls like up and down the Alaskan coast for the summer. There are some other itineraries that vary just a little bit, but in general, your stops are Seward. You're going to cruise the Hubbard Glacier, which is so weather dependent on whether you're going to get to see the glacier or get up close. The first time I did Alaska, we weren't really able to see the glacier. The second time, we were right there. We even saw some calving of the iceberg. So it was really, really a remarkable experience. Skagway, Juneau, Sitka, Ketchikan, and Vancouver. So since I've done the itinerary both ways, there are some considerations in where you want to start or end. So if I were doing an Alaska cruise a third time, okay, I would definitely start in Seward and end in Vancouver. But I am a person that wants to get to where I'm going, immerse myself in the location, the scenery, the culture, the people, and then at the end of my trip, I'm pretty ready to just get home. So for me, the determination of whether I'd want to start in Seward or Vancouver really comes down to the ease of access, and it's far easier to get regular flights to most areas around the globe out of Vancouver. So that's just my own personal determination, but you really can't go wrong either way. The first time I ever did a Silversea cruise was an Alaska cruise. It was on the Shadow. We started in Seward and ended in Vancouver. It was a lovely experience. We arrived the day before. We stayed in the Silversea pre-hotel. We transferred by train to the ship. It was really a remarkable experience from start to finish, and it is what got us hooked on Silversea cruises. And here I am recording videos about them many years later. So it's clearly a great way to get introduced to a remote part of the world and Silversea cruises. So I will say one of the pros about starting in Vancouver is a very vibrant city, very walkable, so much to see and do. We were there a day prior to embarkation. I could have stayed 2 or 3 days prior and just really enjoyed the city. There's so much beautiful scenery around Vancouver. I could easily see it as a place you'd want to stay and spend a little bit of extra time. Transfers in Alaska comes up as a question a lot, especially from the Silversea Hotel pre and post to the port in Seward. They're not close to each other. It is either a train ride or a bus ride away. If you are booked on a full door-to-door fare, the Alaska Railway transfer is included with your ticket. And that is, I'm sure the prices will vary, but that is a $210 value per person, per passenger. It is included. The coach transfer, the bus transfer is included for all bookings, but door-to-door bookings are upgraded to the railway transfer. I have only ever done the railway transfer. It is a really great, relaxing experience. I would say when we did the railway transfer, when we were embarking the boat, it was a really great way to slowly kind of get yourself into the Alaska landscape and see all the lush greenery and the waterfalls and the snow-capped mountains. If you're booking your own transfers for an Alaska itinerary, please know that you can also book the Alaska Railway independently. The times are a little bit more limited, but it's still something that you can do. The FAQ file on Alaska transfers at the Silversea Passengers website is incredibly helpful. Do know that all of this information was as up to date as it could be for the start of the 2024 season in Alaska, but things do change, so do check with the local resources. But this is a great FAQ to get you started on what your transfer options are. The bus transfer takes about 3 hours. The railway transfer is about 4.5 hours. They're both great ways to go, but I truly loved, I thought, taking the railway from Anchorage down to the port in Seward. It was really just a magical experience and one I'll never forget. A lot of people give good travel advice for Alaska of taking your favorite insect repellent. I live in a place where insects are all around us all the time, so we almost always have some sort of insect repellent at hand. I found Alaska to be a similar coastal environment like that, where you just get a bunch of little bugs that can be pesky and mosquitoes. A few of the stops have local drugstores or even sundry stores where you can pick up some insect repellent or sunscreen if you forget it. It probably goes without saying, of course, but Alaska is a state of the United States of America, so all currency will be US dollars. Your pre or post, however way you're going in Vancouver, it will be Canadian dollars. As Americans, it's pretty fluid in terms of ease of spending American dollars in Canada, so that worked out to our favor. I understand that wouldn't be the case for everyone, and then past that, it's all US dollars. So if I had to recommend one currency to take, I would definitely suggest US dollars for an Alaskan cruise, as that's where you're going to be spending most of your time. And of course, all transactions on board Silversea are taking place in US dollars as well. So I want to talk a little bit about some excursions. I'm not going to mention any specific excursions, just give a little overview advice. We've done a lot of the different offerings that are available in Alaska. We've done a float plane, we've done a helicopter ride to a glacier, we've done the White Pass Railway, we've done whale watching tours and wildlife watching tours. We've visited some salmon fisheries and hatcheries. We've even an oyster hatchery. We've visited a hunting lodge. We've actually done a hunting lodge by float plane, and then one that was by, we took a little boat over to the hunting lodge. Those are really great experiences. The one hunting lodge we visited by float plane, there was a beautiful view of a glacier. We had a lovely lunch with a smoked salmon, and we got visited by a black bear, so that was fun too. So Alaska is definitely a more rugged environment. And so the excursions, definitely bear in mind what your true activity level is. On a lot of excursions in a place that isn't as rugged as Alaska is, at one excursion to the next, the activity level might not matter that much. But on Alaska, if it's rated like level 4 of activity, it is going to be strenuous. And so please do bear that in mind as you go to look at your excursions. The helicopter ride, landing on the glacier, was truly a remarkable experience. I know if the weather's bad, that can be kind of a tricky one. For me, it was a great experience. The first thing the guide told us was to pay attention where we're walking and not to take pictures while we walk. So the first thing I did was take pictures as I walk and promptly fell in a hole in the glacier. So you do have to pay attention to your guides and be mindful. It is, again, a more rugged experience. There is a higher activity level going to be required, and you do just need to be mindful of that in the environment that you're in. But once you take that into account, you can have an amazing trip no matter what your level of exertion, your preferred level is. So the first time we went, it was just me and my husband. We did the more active excursions, the float plane, the helicopter ride, the hiking. And the second time we went with my stepson and his wife and their infant son. And because of his age, we couldn't do as many things, so we went on the more low-key whale watching tours, wildlife quest, all of that, and we still had an outstanding time. We got to both times we went to Alaska, we were able to see, you know, the whales and so many sea otters and so many bald eagles. So really, no matter what you end up doing in an Alaska excursion, you're going to see many, many remarkable things. My best advice would be to pay attention to the activity level and level of exertion required, and to just take an honest assessment of whether that's something you're up for or if it's going to be too much for you. So if you're looking to book an upcoming Alaska cruise itinerary, I hope you found some useful information in this Navigating with Lisa video. Of course, all of the full FAQ files, all the information on available excursions and transfers and packing advice is all available on the Silversea Passengers website, silverseapassengers.com. Definitely check that out in the search bar. Just type in Alaska. All of the available files will come up. Almost any question you have will be answered there. An Alaska cruise is potentially once in a lifetime. I'm lucky enough I got to do it twice. I will never forget either one of them. It's a must-do. If you have it on your bucket list, I would definitely check it off. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments or pop them up in the Silversea Passengers Facebook group. I'm one of the moderators there, and I can't wait to talk to you more. Until next time, cheers.